Tonight on Primetime Politics, the vote that was the floor crossing that wasn't.
Yeas pour 30 times, nays called 307 307.
As the Carney government's first budget survives a second confidence vote, we'll speak to the Prime Minister's parliamentary secretary. How does the government plan to get its budget over the finish line? Will any more Conservatives cross the floor to join the Liberal team? We'll ask Kody Blois. Plus,
he's been the victim of some of these Liberal source-fueled rumours.
how close was Conservative MP Matt Jennifer to crossing the floor? We'll ask the Ottawa Bureau Chiefs to share what they have been hearing from their sources. This is Primetime Politics. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Serapio. Well, the Carney government's first budget survived a second confidence vote this afternoon as MPs, Liberals, Conservatives, New Democrats, and Green all voted against a block motion that was seeking to reject the budget. Now, that means the government faces only one more hurdle before the budget is adopted. It is still 2 votes shy of a guaranteed win, though rumors of a second Conservative defection would have brought the government closer. And the Prime Minister says he is open to speaking to any MP who wants to cross the floor. Well, joining us now is Kody Blois, Member of Parliament for Kings Hants, Parliamentary Secretary as well to the Prime Minister. Kody Blois, thank you for being here.
Pleasure to be here, Michael.
So, 2 amendments have now been tabled. Both have failed. Are you now confident that you are going to get your budget passed?
We're taking it day by day, Michael. If I was the House Leader, if this was Steve McKinnon, he would say we don't know until we actually get to November 17th and that we have a majority of parliamentarians. Obviously, we would love to have any of the opposition parties signal that they're going to be confident to support it. We believe in our budget. We think that this is a really important time for the country, that the plan that we've put forward not only puts forward a path for growth and creating the types of opportunities that Canadians need at a moment that is critical, but it also recalibrates public spending and make sure that we have that fiscal discipline that we need. So certainly we're hopeful, but time will tell. We'll take it day by day.
Do you know where you're going to get 2 more votes? Because that's where you are at this point. With Chris D'Entremont's crossing, you're 2 votes shy.
Those
Do you know where you're going to get them?
Yeah, Michael, those conversations are ongoing, obviously, between the House leaders and between the parties. The Conservatives have made very clear that they're not going to support the budget. The Bloc not really showing a whole lot of positivity towards the budget either. So we're hoping that between perhaps Elizabeth May or members of the NDP caucus that they can look at this budget, say now is not a time to put the country back into an election. We were just granted a mandate to be able to govern Canada at a very difficult time. We think that this budget is a pathway to be able to provide support for Canadians at a critical time, to provide the pathway on how we're going to grow the economy, build out the infrastructure that's needed, but also make generational investments in the Canadian Armed Forces.
But that's where you're looking at, the Green leader and the NDP. That's where you think you're going to get the extra votes, though.
Look, those conversations are ongoing. I don't want to prejudge, but certainly in the public commentary that we've seen from the Bloc and the Conservatives, they are not signaling that they're going to support, which I think is unfortunate. There is a lot of good things in this budget for Quebec that if I was a Bloc Québécois member, I would certainly be asking myself, why wouldn't I be supporting this? And certainly from the Conservative perspective, whether it's on increasing our competitiveness through the marginal effective tax rate, whether or not it's critical infrastructure investment, critical investment in the Canadian Armed Forces. And Michael, you'll remember, you've covered politics for quite some time, the Conservatives had spending below 1% of GDP on the Canadian Armed Forces. We think it's really important to invest. It's a critical time, and this is the type of budget that does exactly that. We don't want to go back to an election. I don't think that's what Canadians want. So hopefully we can find a pathway forward.
Okay, you mentioned Conservative, you mentioned a pathway forward. You have posted a photo on social media of you and Chris D'Entremont, former Conservative MP, fellow Nova Scotian, now a fellow Liberal MP. Are we going to see more floor crossings to get this budget passed?
Look, we, as the Prime Minister has said, we aren't certainly chasing it, but we're open to those conversations. And, I've had the opportunity, whether publicly or in any commentary in the House, there is a difference between the way in which Mr. Poilievre is presenting the Conservative Party at the federal level versus what we see, for example, in my home province of Nova Scotia. Our finance minister in Nova Scotia actually praised the federal budget as being a responsible pathway forward, as being good for Nova Scotia.
Your provincial government being a PC government.
A progressive conservative, that's exactly right. And so there is a difference. And Mr. D'Entremont was a progressive conservative in the Nova Scotia House of Assembly for 18 years. He's a moderate, and certainly the proof is in the pudding for what he made public this week, where he said, I want a leader that's focused on the positivity of Canada, on building up Canada. Mr. Poilievre has certainly taken the federal Conservative Party less and less away from that red Tory tradition. We welcome members of Parliament that are looking across the way, saying Mr. Carney and his government is presenting the way in which I would want to represent my constituents and the pathway that they think are important for Canadians.
Now, of course, the reports were indicating that Matt Genito, another Conservative MP, was about to cross the floor and join your caucus. Were you counting on that? Did you think that was going to happen?
Look, I wasn't close to those conversations, Michael. It would be disingenuous for me on the show to say that I was in direct conversation with Mr. Genito. I've certainly said over the years he is the type of member of Parliament that I think we should really encourage Canadians to put forward. He was respectful in his debate, even if he may disagree with the government. Certainly, I think at the end of the day, Parliament will be worse off without having him in it. We certainly would have welcomed, I'll certainly speak for myself, we would have loved to have someone like a Matt Genito join our caucus.
So who else like Matt Genito then? You mentioned progressive conservatives. Who else do you think might cross over?
I'm not at liberty to talk about that on this show. I would say that if you Canadians can take a look, political commentators, pundits that watch the House of Commons can look at the members of Parliament that might come from a progressive conservative tradition, that present themselves in the House based on facts and statistics and keep a decorum that is respectful. Sometimes what we're seeing increasingly from the opposition benches, if I may, is the type of narrative that I don't think is necessarily positive and is a little bit further skewed from that red Tory tradition. So when you look at Prime Minister Carney, he's presenting a budget that is hopeful and optimistic about the future. It's a plan that has concrete actions to tackle some of the challenges the country is facing. At the same time,
have you spoken to any potential red Tories to cross over? Without naming names, have you spoken to potential Tories who might cross over?
We sometimes tease our colleagues in the hallways all the time and say, look, you'd look great in a red sweater and things of those conversations. I've talked to Chris for years, was not involved directly in the final throes of having him join our party. But the message the Prime Minister has laid out, Michael, is very clear, which is we welcome anyone who wants to help support our budget to move our government's vision for Canada forward, whether or not that's in the House of Commons by simply either voting or abstaining to allow that budget to pass, or if they're looking at the party writ large under the leadership of the Prime Minister and saying that's the type of leadership I want to see. My constituents are liking what they're seeing from this government, and I think I would be better suited, and the Liberal Party right now under Mark Carney is a better vehicle to represent my constituents. We're always open to those conversations.
I got 1 minute left. Sorry to interrupt. I got 1 minute left here, and I want to ask you, though, speaking of the budget, we now have the Fitch rating agency raising concerns, and Fitch is one of those agencies that doesn't even have Canada as a AAA rating right now. It currently has Canada AA+. It's raising now a concern about the financial outlook with this government. They say the budget underscores an erosion in the federal government's finances. How is your government responding to that?
We have the lowest net debt to GDP ratio, Michael, in the G7. We have the second lowest deficit as a proportion of our economy in the G7. We have a plan to balance the operating spending of government by 2028, while at the same time recognizing that we do have to make capital investments that drive the economy forward. And at the end of the day, I said this in the House this week, when you look at a proportionate, the spending on debt servicing is about 10 cents for every dollar spent. It was 35 cents in 1990. When you hear Conservatives suggest that it's not sustainable, we are nowhere near where we were in the 1990s.
So you're not worried about the Fitch warning?
Well, S&P and Moody's certainly still have us at AAA credit rating, and we have a pathway forward in terms of making sure that we have balanced operation spending in the days ahead, and we also have to grow the economy. The crucial measure right now is debt to GDP ratio. That is flat over time in the budget that we've put forward, and certainly we're trying to catalyze $1 trillion of investment in this country over the next 5 years. That's going to have the ability to grow the economy and keep our finances stable over time.
Kody Blois, appreciate the time. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, floor crossings were a big topic in this week's episode of the Bureau Chiefs with Michael Serapio. This week, we talked about former Conservative MP Chris D'Entremont, who joined the Liberal ranks on Tuesday. Also, MP Matt Genito, who you just heard about, reportedly close to leaving the Tories, and what all of that means for Pierre Poilievre's leadership of the party. A new episode of the podcast is out now, but take a listen to this excerpt featuring Robert Fife from the Globe and Mail, Tonda MacCharles from the Toronto Star, and Joël-Denis Bellavance from LaPresse.
Well, based on what we were hearing, that he was very close. Earlier after the budget, he was talking to people about either he would cross the floor or perhaps sit as an independent. And then it took on a bizarre life of its own to the point where all of a sudden we learned yesterday that on Thursday that he's going to resign, and we assumed that was going to be resigned right away, but now it's resigned sometime in the spring. This whole thing has been absolutely bizarre. There were discussions going on with the Liberals about him joining or crossing the floor because of his unhappiness with Pierre Poilievre. And the Conservatives got hold of that, and there was all kinds of rumors going around and suggestions that they were, in fact, putting a lot of heavy pressure on him, harassment, and some would say blackmail, and to the point where he decided he would not cross the floor for the sake of his family. And he put out a release that, it said, leave my family alone. I need to spend some time with my family. He spoke glowingly, positively about Pierre Poilievre before the election, but then in his comments after the election, he never even mentions Poilievre. And he talks about how he hopes to have one chance to be able to speak to the House. And then all the rumors started going about the Conservatives maybe bullying and harassing him. And a few hours later, we've got a wonderful thing from the Pierre Poilievre. What a great guy Mr. Genoux is. We have all these Conservative MPs clearly doing talking points about what a great guy is, and then he puts out a statement saying, "I wasn't coerced. I'm doing this all on my own." So it's bizarre.
Well, it's bizarre, confusing, and you're trying to make clarity again. But this does begin, all of this begins, Tonda, with, again, the rumors that Genoux was about to cross to the Liberal ranks. What were you hearing around that?
The Liberals were very close, we're told, to having secured Mr. Genoux' support for the budget, and it all fell apart. And it fell apart over the course of, it seems, a meeting that Mr. Genoux had a couple of meetings. We're reporting today, not just we reported last night, he met with the Prime Minister, but he also continued to have another meeting involving, at that meeting with the Prime Minister, two of the senior staffers were there, and at another meeting, one of those staffers was with Mr. Genoux and another Liberal MP. And it fell apart shortly after that. So Mr. Genoux not responding to all requests for clarity around this. He's selectively answering some questions, mainly the question of whether he was pressured or threatened into staying in the caucus. And he denies any such pressure campaign happened. And then what we also know, though, we've reported today, Friday, that there is much wider dissatisfaction in the Conservative caucus than was previously thought. I've reported this afternoon that I'm told there's some 10 to 15 MPs are pretty frustrated in the Conservative caucus. And not that they will necessarily do anything such as crossing the floor or anything that dramatic, but there's quite a bit of dissatisfaction that the leader is dealing with. And some people, there's some expectation that we may see some other departures, people declining to run again under a Poilievre-led Conservative banner. But as you've all said, there's a lot of confusion in this town right now around what's happening.
We'll pick up on a couple of those points in a second. But Joël-Denis, when you were looking at this story, when you were speaking to people on the ground, what were you hearing around Matt Genoux?
That Mr. Genoux came very close to joining the Liberal ranks. He met in person with the Prime Minister, and I'm told it happened during question period either on Monday or Tuesday, the day the budget was tabled. And the Liberals have been active in trying to lure Conservative MPs to join their ranks since the federal election was over. As soon as the election was over, they were told try to get some Conservative MPs who are more progressive, if I may say, to join the Liberal government. And so far they've got one. And my indication, as Tonda just said, is that there will be more following Mr. d'Entremont. That next week the House is not sitting, and that will be a pause for reflection for many MPs while they go back to their riding, talk to their family, and make, I guess, the full assessment of what they want to do in the future, whether they want to continue under Pierre Poilievre or a government that led by Mark Carney that is the most center-right that we have seen under Justin Trudeau.
Well, I will say, I spoke to Kody Blois, parliamentary secretary to the Prime Minister, before you guys came in here, and he was talking about, he believes there are red Tories out there that are not feeling at home in the caucus. You know, take it for what it's worth.
Take it from a Liberal.
Take it from a Liberal, exactly. Exactly.
Take it from the Conservatives who are saying that now.
But, and one of whom was, go ahead.
And on one point, like I talked to some Tory MPs today, and they cannot guarantee that they will not be more Tory MPs leaving the party. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the ranks, within the Conservative ranks, and that only contribute to weaken the leadership of Pierre Poilievre at the end of the day.
And I'm going to pick up on that point, but you know, certainly we heard from Chris D'Entremont when he crossed over. Clearly for him, it was Pierre Poilievre's leadership was what he says drove him to cross the floor to the Liberals. Although Conservatives did publicly speak to members of the press gallery, they were standing by their leader. Take a listen to what we heard from some Conservative MPs Thursday evening.
I think that we have exactly the leader that we need to communicate the massive issues facing the country right now, and 100% confidence.
You know, I think we continue to be a strong team, strongly support our leader.
I will take Matt Generou's word over Chris D'Entremont's.
Your party is being accused of harassing MPs within your caucus. Do you reject those claims?
Yes, I do, and so does Matt Generou. He's been a great colleague.
It has nothing to do with the leadership?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you think you're going to lose more colleagues?
And silently into the night he goes. So that's what we heard from some Conservatives. But you know, talk to us about what this means for Pierre Poilievre's hold on the party, Bob.
Well, look, there's two things at issue here. JD touched on it, is the fact that if you're a moderate conservative or middle-of-the-road conservative and you see Mark Carney, who's leading a centrist government, who is not only been trying to rely on the private sector to generate growth in this country and cutting back on the civil service, even though he's spending a lot of money initially, you can see the game plan with it. And he's also, as we've seen in a number of law and order issues, he's much more conservative, and that appeals to some of these members of Parliament, because what you have on the other hand is with Pierre Poilievre, when he made that, I think he would probably privately acknowledge that was a stupid statement he made about the RCMP being despicable, and the suggestion that Justin Trudeau should go to jail, which is very Donald Trump-like, and the fact that he's controlled his caucus so tightly prior to the election campaign, less so than now, but he still doesn't seem to have learned any lessons from that. Perhaps he will over the next couple of weeks because he's losing members of Parliament. So if you're not happy with the direction of the party, even though it's surprising after only, I mean, what, it was 7 months after the election campaign, but if you feel that you're not comfortable in this party and you see somebody who's actually trying to move the country forward in a very serious way, you can see the attraction for some of these members of Parliament.
What would you say about Pierre Poilievre's hold on the party right now, Tonda?
I think it's more tenuous than it was a week ago. And I think, however, that ahead of the leadership review, many of the Conservative caucus members who do support Mr. Poilievre are hoping he gets through the next few weeks to that leadership review where he gets a strong vote, and then that quells the caucus challenge within. Here's the thing, though. For many of the people who are dissatisfied with Mr. Poilievre's leadership, there are no other champions stepping forward saying they want his job. And we've done a poll just prior to this, so it's going to be a good baseline to establish whether this does affect his popularity. But we measured a whole bunch of other Conservative names against Mr. Poilievre's ability to go up against the Liberals, and he remains the person that the numbers say is in best place to defeat Mark Carney
Even
Liberals.
20 points behind in terms of preferred prime minister, he's the best?
Right now, in terms of a Poilievre-led Conservative Party up against the Liberals versus, say, a Doug Ford-led Conservative Party or a Stephen Harper-led Conservative Party or Pickham Mulrooney, Poilievre does better.
Joël-Denis, what do you think this says about Pierre Poilievre's hold on the party?
Well, I think we have to go back to the federal election night when he lost his riding in Ottawa-Carleton. I think that just brought to the forefront the fact that Mr. Poilievre is not invincible. That he can be beaten, and because he was beaten in his own riding. And I think the problem started there, and also the fact that the comments that he made about the RCMP leadership being despicable for not putting Justin Trudeau in jail, that really led some people to think about what kind of leader they want for their party, and the kind of speeches that resemble to what we see south of the border, putting your opponent in jails because you don't agree with them. So those kind of combinations of factors lead to me, I believe, is leading to the fact that some people are asking openly more now. Questions about the leadership of Pierre Poilievre.
Do you think we're going to see more defections, though, more floor crossings?
Look, it's very possible. I think we've all been speaking to Liberals today, and they are saying we are in hot pursuit. We are holding conversations with other Conservative MPs to see if they will cross the floor.
Because they only need two more seats. They only need two more to achieve majority.
I think there's a chance that there might be another one, but we'll wait and see. Clearly, the Liberals have to keep this quiet, because if the Conservatives get wind of it, as they did with Mr. Genereux, they really go after you hard, and in the case
some may be spooked, right?
Yeah,
some may be spooked from going.
So do you think that will?
If people are going to attack you personally and put your family at risk, that's a serious stuff.
If that is in fact what was happening. So we don't know that
we
for
don't
a fact.
know that.
We don't know that
All
for a
we
fact.
know is that Mr. Genereux personally denied that to me, and so did Mr. D'Entremont, that they were subjected to any threats or pressure.
Okay, so they've denied to you. Good to put on record and to note.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to see more floor crossings?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know to what extent some of the people who I think were considering it are now spooked by the way this has unfolded this week.
I believe there will be more defection. And we've seen that the crack is open now, with Chris D'Entremont making the move, and also a little bit more with Monsieur Genereux thinking about it, came close to being joining the Liberal ranks, and then stepping back because the pressure that he faced. But I'm sure there are some people who will be thinking over that next week when it's a break week. And so I'll be watching on November 17th how many Conservative Party will actually vote against the budget. That will be very telling. And so far, we had 2 amendments that were voted on in the House of Commons, and 4 MPs, Tory MPs, did not vote on any of those 2 amendments, including Michael Chung, Shane Stubbs, and there are 2 more that the names escape me, but there are 4.
They've all had
reasons
for
that
it,
the party has accepted for not voting. Mr. Genereux is a bit more of a question in my mind.
He didn't vote either, so
he did not vote
he did
either.
not know.
Yeah. And that was Robert Fife, Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Globe and Mail, Tonda MacCharles, Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star, and Joël-Denis Bellavance, the Ottawa Bureau Chief for LaPresse. And what you heard is part of our new podcast from Primetime Politics and CPAC. It is called The Bureau Chiefs with Michael Serapio. New episodes will drop each Friday that PTP is on air, and you can get the latest episode right now. Well, before we go this evening, we wanted to get some more reaction to this week's budget. Take a listen right now to the Coalition for a Better Future. Conservative Government Minister Lisa Raitt and former Deputy Prime Minister to Paul Martin Anne McLellean are the co-chairs of that coalition. And they gave us a look at the budget, and while they do give it some good marks for focusing on prioritizing economic growth, they view the budget as only a first step, and they'd like to see more.
I think that the government could have gone a little bit further, if not a lot more further. I think that they understand and know very well exactly what the problem is in the country. They've had lots of people tell them for the past 6 months, and they fully understand the problem, that dilemma that we're facing in terms of productivity. But the one part that they have kind of shied away from is taking stronger stances when it comes to the regulatory matters that truly are getting in the way of final investment decisions in this country. It's one thing to showcase that you're going to put some money in the window in order to attract investment, but the people need to understand that they're going to be able to get these projects approved and they're going to get them built. And that's the part that could have had a bit more, I would say, meat on the bones for them.
I think this is an important beginning, Michael. This is the first budget that we've seen in a long time that actually focuses on the importance of economic growth to the well-being of Canadians, focuses on the importance of productivity and why we're lagging behind our comparator countries. But it's a beginning. And I think that's what we at the coalition are saying. And what, if you look at our members, many of them who've issued press releases on the budget are saying important first steps, important incentives in many areas to spur economic growth, enhanced productivity. But there's still a lot of detail that has to be worked out here to see whether or not this budget will provide the degree of certainty that the private sector needs and wants to make those big multi-billion-dollar investments that the Government of Canada through this budget would like to see.
And as you heard, if issues like regulatory blocks are not addressed, the coalition is concerned about private capital being discouraged. Now, we'll post more of that discussion on social media next week, so look for that on the CPAC website and on our YouTube channel. Now, one more programming note before we leave you this weekend. A new episode of Profile will be featured here on CPAC over the weekend. It features pollster Daryl Bricker and journalist John Ibbotson, who have co-written a new book called Breaking Point, which is a bit of a wake-up call, they say, for Canada. Here's the next. You know, I'm just going to do a quick summation here, and you tell me if I'm on the right path here. Military investments, resource development, housing, all those create and symbolize economic prosperity and productivity. Is that what you see as really the path of addressing the breaking points that you outline in this book?
Yeah, I think ultimately we have to decide that we're going to be a country that makes sense. So my opening idea in the book when we started into it was, are Canadians a unique people on the North American continent? And a country that can't defend itself and only has really one significant trade partner, when Donald Trump stands up and says, you know, you guys would be better off with us, maybe there's an argument to make for that. You know, when he says that there was a line that's drawn on this map, it looks like it was drawn by a ruler, it's actually true. But the people who drew that line really believed we were better east to west and independent from the United States, and that this country made sense. And the people who put this country together initially had bold visions of building the infrastructure that would keep the country together, but also recognizing in their own particular situation that maybe a glass half full together in between individual regions was better than having a full glass in the United States. So we found a reason to bring this place together. And that's what the challenge is going to be for the major politicians in this country of the big regions, but also the big cities and other places where they have to come up with the initiatives that make us feel better east to west rather than north to south. Because of that north to south battle, when we've got that government in place in the United States, I take Donald Trump very seriously when he says that I want to use the economic power of my country to bring you into our orbit and possibly make you the 51st state of the United States. And if that's the case, we're going to have to work hard to prevent that.
And our thanks there to Daryl Bricker and John Ibbotson. They have a new book out called Breaking Point. The full discussion, which is very interesting, will air this weekend on CPAC. You see the times there on your board. Well, that is Primetime Politics for this Friday. I'm Michael Serapio. For everyone here at CPAC, thank you for watching. Primetime Politics is back on November 17th, since next week is a break week for Parliament. Until then, take care, and we'll see you next time.